Why does spirituality not work? That is what I want to explore. And for context, what I'm talking about here is how a lot of people, they come to spirituality because of things like the secret, manifestation, wanting to create something in this world, and they can apply these techniques of think positive, of manifestation, and they're not really seeing the results. There's not physical change occurring with their life. And this is on the back of another video I did not long ago called Why It's Not Working, about spirituality. You can find that in my channel. So welcome to this video. I'm Dean Bentley and I help people build their visions. Now, what I want to talk about today is why for some people spirituality and all the techniques, all the tools just don't really seem to be working. And this is especially the case when it's coming to things like the secret, like manifestation. And I know I've been there. For the longest time, I tried to just think positive, say the right things, write down the affirmations and hope that it worked. And what I found was it didn't happen. I felt disconnected from myself. Things weren't flowing like I wanted to, and something was missing. And what I came to realize was because I was missing half the equation. So in alchemy, we have what's called solvate coagula, which is a Latin saying which means to first dissolve and then coagulate, so to bring together. So what a lot of people are doing with spirituality, this is a lot more in the ascent-based spirituality, is they're doing the coagulate stage. This is putting in the mindset, this is the affirmations, this is coagulating and forming the new version of themselves. And this is a really important step. But what has happened is they've missed another piece of the puzzle, and this is they solve a stage. And this is where a person actually goes through a deconstruction, a rewiring, a deconditioning, a removing of a lot of their old beliefs, of their old trauma, because this is a key component, and the old ways of being, and deconstructing that so they can dissolve to then coagulate and create the new stage of their being. And unless we do this first part, that person is trying to hold on to a lot of their old stories and conditions and bring that into the new way. And so in the mind, this may not be the case. They may believe in their affirmations, but there's a somatic experience, a body experience that they have not yet connected to. And this is the missing point, because our bodies, they store our past, they store our unconscious. This is the somatic, this is the fascia that lives within our cells. And this is the work of Peter Levine, and I can't remember the other one, but the book The Body Keeps the Score. They are some brilliant resources on how a somatic experience lives within the body. And so until we work with this, until we're willing to meet these blocks, it's going to continue the same process. Because what this is doing, why they keep continuing, the same patterns keep coming up, is that the block, the challenge, the thing that's needed to be met hasn't been dealt with yet. And this is an invitation, and perspective is everything here. So you must be willing to perceive this in an empowering way. So because that thing is still occurring, it means that still exists within this reality, and the lesson hasn't been learned. It may feel like, and I know I've done this, where I've got to a point and I'm like, I'm sick of dealing with this same situation again and again. I'm like, I've learned my lessons, I've done the work, and then the same pattern occurs. And regardless of what my ego thinks, regardless of what I believe, if the pattern reoccurs and it happens again, there is still remnants within your field that haven't been dealt with, or it's a test that's coming in to see if you've actually truly dealt with this. So when that occurs, it's the invitation to continue the work and go through and see what else needs to be done. So what we want to focus on if we're stuck in the same patterns, and we've been doing this one side of the coin, and I can remember for me, I started on a lot of ascent-based spirituality. So I'm talking the yogic, ascetic path. This is where we are trying to reach enlightenment. So we're going upwards. So if you think of the chakras, we're moving from the base chakra, so survival, up into the crown, into the other world, and open up into the ethereal. Now, this is the approach of a lot of ascetics. This is the monk who goes to live in the mountains. And this is really beautiful, and there's a lot of beautiful teachings within this, but we live in a 3D reality, and unless you are going to live in the monastery, it can be a limitation to do only this approach. I'm not saying this is bad. I still meditate, I do yoga. These are important practices to me, but there's other body-based work, which is what I call the downward descent, which is coming from the crown, moving down our chakras, down into our body, into this felt experience, into density, into matter, to experience this 3D reality. And this other side of the coin is what we call embodiment work. It could be called trauma work. It could be just belief changes and reconditioning, but we're working on the material reality. We're trying to bring more spirit down into matter. This is a big part of what I teach, because I see that the essence of this reality is to bring more spirit, more soul, which soul is just a unique embodiment of our spirit down into this plane of consciousness, so that we can experience more of it. And so why people can be still stuck and is that they haven't mastered, or they haven't been willing to work with both currents. They may be focused on only the upward current or the downwards current, and they actually both need to integrate. And this is where the middle path comes in. So for me, when I started, I said I was going a lot down the yoga, the meditation. This was beautiful. This is what I needed at that point in my journey. But what occurred for me, I began to dissociate from life. I began to think of how I could escape this reality through spirituality. I used it as an escape mechanism because I could get higher and higher and higher, and then I didn't have to live within this reality. And what occurred within this, and why I couldn't create my reality at that time, is because if I was disconnected from my body, I wasn't aware of my emotions, and if I was to tune into them and connect to them, what I would have seen at that time was there was anger. Firstly, I was very disconnected from my anger in the past. I didn't know how to be with it. And so I was very like, how do I be with this? How do I express my anger? And I didn't actually really know that I felt angry, but it was a primary emotion for me that had just been suppressed. And this is big for men, for women, because if we're blocking anger, we're probably blocking most of the other emotions that can come after, and that will probably be a video for another day. But if you want to know more about the waterfall of emotions and how anger can often block other emotions, comment below, let me know, and I'll create that. And so for me, I was unaware that my boundaries were being crossed, that I didn't actually feel content with my life, because I was dissociative to my body through spirituality. And so I was escaping upwards while still trying to create the life that I wanted. But what it created was, it made it so I was somewhat distant from life. I wasn't in life. I wasn't present with their present experience. And what this meant was I disconnected from people. I wasn't in relationships. I was only in up here. And it meant I wasn't grounded in reality. And I found this a very hard place to create from. I found this a very difficult place to navigate from and actually have the skills to be in the 3D. And so for me, I had to learn how to actually bring my energy downwards and go into the body. And what I found when I started going into my body was, oh, actually, I don't feel I'm worthy enough to have what I want currently. There was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of conditioning around feeling abandoned, of beliefs around money, of wealth, that lived within my body, coming from childhood. And this is where a lot of embodied experiences come from, a traumatic experience, which our nervous systems at the time didn't know how to deal with. So these came from a past behavior, and I was like, oh, I didn't know how to process at the time, and that unconscious belief or energy stored in the body, which is all it is, was blocked because I hadn't yet gone back and felt that emotion that lived there from my past experience. And this is how we reclaim these parts of ourselves and integrate these experiences, is to go back and feel that emotion that was attached with that past version of ourselves. So for me, there was a lot of pain around my parents' separation and me taking that on. This wasn't about them, but me taking it on and feeling like, oh, they didn't love me. And so I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I can't have what I want. So of course I can't create the reality I want, because these were embodied, lived experiences that came and stemmed from my past behavior. So I had to reclaim these parts, and this is the invitation of this work, is to go in and see, oh, where am I holding on to past pain? Because if we're only focused on the secret, the coagulate stage is what I'm really talking about, the manifestation current, it doesn't take into account this dissolve. Because what I'm doing when I go back and reclaim them past experiences is allow that to dissolve. Because up until this point in time, up until that point where I let it go, I was holding on to that energy and bringing it with me. So I'm walking through time and space, and I'm dragging my past with me because I wasn't willing to allow that to flow through my energetic system at the time. So I carried that with me and continued moving through the world. And I had to pause, and this is where a lot of things can happen if we're trying to create and trying to move forward, and people are like, I need to get there, I need to get there, is that can be a trauma response. So watch that one. I'll probably do a video on that at some point, but if you want that, comment below, let me know. But that's a whole nother kettle of fish. And so instead, I had to pause and feel them, welcome them home, welcome them parts of me that was like, oh, I didn't feel worthy, I didn't feel like I could be loved. And this is the piece that needs to occur, because a lot of people look at, oh, I'm not worthy, and they want to push that away. And this can be what occurs when we're looking at manifestation, is like, oh, I need to be worthy, so I need to push this part of me away. But what actually needs to happen is that needs to be pulled in to the self, to allow love in and be like, oh, that poor version of me, not in a condemning like it's poor, but like, oh, that little child that I was didn't feel loved, and he needs to feel love so he can be welcomed home and brought back. So it's okay to soften, it's okay to let go of that, because that energy that was held onto is no longer there, because that part's been reclaimed. And when this occurs, what it does is clears out that energetic system, so that then we can actually create from a place we want, instead of being like, oh, I don't know if I can, because this creates, when we only do one part of this, it creates an internal division which uses more energy to continue to create that separation. So instead of creating unity within the system, one part says, I'm really worthy, and the other part's like, I'm not worthy. And it's like friction, energy attacking each other. And what we want to do is collapse that polarity, so that then energy can flow and we can have conscious choice about what we are creating. So this is the part which then allows actual manifestation to occur. So what I'm saying is, to actually manifest and allow spirituality to work for us and create what we want in this world, we first must get clear on the unconscious blocks, triggers, trauma and conditions and beliefs that are stored within the body and within the mind, clear them, allow them to dissolve, and then from there create and begin to coagulate, which is to bring together the new version of ourselves, which is like the more empowered, or whatever it is. It could be more wealthy, it could be more fun, expressive, wild, whatever that is, and to bring that in. And this is the essence of what an identity shift is. I've talked about this in a podcast episode. You can go check that out on the Wyrd Way. That's the podcast. There's a couple different episodes where I explore that. And this is the transition piece that so many people go through, and what most of the hero's journey is about going into the dark, so unpacking the trauma, unpacking the conditions, and then returning home, so creating the new version and coming in. So this is what any transformational work is about, any decent transformational work. So if you got something out of this, if you realize, oh, this is what I need to do to actually allow my spirituality to create what I want, and in the end actually consider what that is and consider what it is that you get from that thing. Because if it is money and you're like, oh, I want to use it to create money, what are you creating? What does that money give you? If it's happiness, if you be happy now, you're already there. And then naturally, if that version of you is the one who has money, is happy, money will come to you. Like that's a whole nother video. I unpacked that more in the podcast. Go check that out. If you have questions, please leave them below. I'll answer them. I'll get to you. And if you like this, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, and what you receive from this. You can go check out some of my other videos here. And if you have any requests of what you want to learn, of what you're wanting in this space, do let me know. I'm dropping one of these every week. So please let me know. Enjoy. Have a beautiful day.